Live from our Fan Office studios here at Kukumlimli, Accra, this is Joy News Prime. Our lead story is Ghana fast running out of foreign exchange reserves with warnings we are facing the Sri Lankan scenario of acute shortage of essential goods like petrol and medicines. Also, government to borrow 2.42 billion cedis in T-bills this week. And burden sharing is in order, but there must be exceptions. We'll explore further the position of pensioner bondholders in the debt restructuring program. And over 34,000 children in the northeast region of Ghana have no furniture. I am Emefa Apawu, your host for the next 60 minutes here on Joy News Prime at 8 p.m. Many thanks for choosing us once again. This evening, it is emerging that Ghana is fast running out of foreign exchange reserves to back its inputs, with experts warning we are facing the Sri Lankan scenario. The governor of the Bank of Ghana has disclosed that Ghana's foreign exchange reserves has now been significantly eroded to the point where it can only support inputs for a maximum of 6 weeks. Economist and former chairman of the Finance Committee in Parliament, an NPP MP, that's a former NPP MP for New Jabin South, Dr. Marcus Ibeyeboa, is warning that Ghana will soon be unable to import essentials like petrol, diesel and medicines. We'll hear from him shortly, but first, Dr. Ernest Addison, governor of the Central Bank, answering questions before the Public Accounts Committee. He says government's decision to suspend interest payments to foreign creditors may be Ghana's only hope.
We really don't have enough foreign exchange reserves. Currently, our reserves are around 1.5 months of import cover. But the government has announced a debt standstill. That debt standstill means that the outflows, the money that we were using to service foreign debt, will not go out anymore. That gives us a lot of room and takes pressure of the foreign exchange market. So yes, because of that debt standstill, I can say that we should expect the currency to remain relatively stable.
Has the government concluded discussion with the investors? Because government law cannot just announce a debt standstill. There must be an agreement. Has that been done? Because if there's no agreement, the foreign investors will put pressure on government.
Well, the debt standstill is a first step. At least you get some space from not having to service the debt. And then the negotiations would take place. I know the creditor committees are being formed. We've already had meetings with the Paris Club on that. So there's significant progress on that end also.
But you are a player in the market, so you have more inside information.
I stick my neck out that we are not going to see the sort of thing that we saw in 2022 if the program works well.
But economist and former chairman of the Finance Committee in Parliament and NPP MP for New Jabin South, Dr. Marcus Ibeyeboa, says the decision to suspend interest payments to foreign creditors will have a devastating impact on Ghana's economy, as foreign banks are refusing to release funds to finance ongoing infrastructural projects in Ghana.
A suspension translates into default. So it was not a default that they were reporting, but our announcement of a suspension on the external. And a few touched on it earlier that we are not even considering the external. The external is also dangerous because what's happening now is that there are contractors who have raised IPCs and then the banks are not paying. You know, when there are project loans for the Obecha interchange, La Polyclinic, the nephrology center, all of these, the money sits with the banks in Germany or England or wherever. And so when you raise IPCs and the supervising ministry certifies and then finance authorizes, then they will release money. So contractors are holding IPCs following the announcement that we are suspending our debt obligations on the external. They are not paying. So what is going to happen is that a lot of these projects are going to cease. Contractors will have to demobilize from site. By the time we go back, costs would have increased. And so suspending on the external translates into a default. And to all intents and purposes, since the announcements, there would have been some obligations that we have not met. But on the external side, it's manageable. Okay? The external side is manageable because those who purchase our bonds, they hold big portfolios. They insure some of them against some of these hazards. And so if you look at Goldman Sachs and Franklin Templeton and the rest, some of them hold billions of dollars in portfolios. So these ones we can manage. And it is in their interest for us to suspend and get things on track and come back and come and service the debt. So for them, we can manage them. But not you and I, our local field that we have, the domestic side. That one is going to be problematic.
Well, let's break down these figures in terms of our foreign reserves and what it looks like for us as a country. Our in-house data analyst, Isaac Kofi-J-Mensah, joins me in studio. Let's take a look at the depletion. Isaac, you have been looking at the figures, breaking it down, comparing it to the Sri Lankan situation. Please do us the honors once again and give us what the picture is.
Well, let me be very diplomatic and let's just see the dwindling reserves for Ghana. But first, what is, reserve? So if you look at the dollars, the exchange that you get, the euros, the pounds, and your gold reserve that you get every year, that's what we total and we say that's your gross international reserve. Now, this reserve that you have is supposed to cover a certain, number of months of imports. Okay. If you look at our situation, for instance, the reserve that we have, which is less than $500 billion, can only afford us just 1.5 months of imports cover. That's less than 2 months. If you look at Sri Lanka, when they went bankrupt, their reserves was around 1.3 months. And so we are currently at 1.5 months. And probably that's the reason why government doesn't want to put, additional stress on this reserve. Okay. And then it's maybe opting for the gold for oil program because that will ease the kind of pressure we have on our reserve. So we've been tracking it right from 2017, and you've seen how it has dwindled. The last time, I don't really recall the last time we ever recorded, such a low reserve.
Because just in 2021, what is looking like
4.3? Even during COVID, our reserve was around 4 months. In 2017, when the government took over, was around, they sent it to 4.3 months of imports cover. And the average was around, 4 or 3 months.
And how did we take this nosedive all of a sudden in 2022?
It's because we do not have, we don't print dollars.
Okay.
And then we are running out of dollars. So government is actually now going into the reserve they have to make sure that they are able to meet the dollar demand of BDCs, those who are bringing in pharmaceuticals and all that. So this is putting a lot of pressure on the dollar and then our reserve as well. Okay. We know that we began the year, the cedi was doing well. Now you can get $1 for like 12 cedis at the commercial level. The interbank level, we are quoting some 9 cedis or even less than maybe 8 cedis. But still, you can see that the cedi is still depreciating. And just like Beverly said, we've seen the cedi depreciating by more than 12%, just the start of this year. So the gold for oil, deal that governments are looking for, this probably will be the reason why they really want to have it. If you look at the green line, which is our gold export, how much we get from gold every year, right from 2017, and look at the orange line, which is how much we import. So on the average, we need close to 3 billion every year to be able to make sure that we bring in oil. So government is saying that if we spend close to 5 billion or 6 billion, if we get these, income from gold, then we can, if you look at the balance sheet, then we can use this to bring in oil so that we do not have pressure on the available dollars that we have on the system. So if you are not getting dollars, we can still use gold to buy dollars. It's just like any other commodity. If demand is more than supply, price will go up. So government doesn't want this to happen in 2023. That's why they are opting for this, gold for oil deal. So that's what the figures say. And if you look at it, if you're able to do it well, probably we will, increase our international reserve to some 3 months.
And we've been hearing from the central bank and the vice president all confident about this gold for oil deal, first consignment in the country, but it remains to be seen how sustainable this will be. But stay with me, your work is not done because the government, we are told, will borrow 2.42 billion in Treasury bills to refinance the upcoming maturities of 2.22 billion in this week's T-bill auction. So that's according to its issuance calendar for the first quarter of this year. And the securities that the government will be selling are the 91-day T-bill, the 182-day T-bill, and the 364-day T-bill. Well, this is coming after the government obtained 1.72 billion from the short-term securities from a target of 1.125 billion cedis last week. The amount exceeded the auction target by 52.30%, surpassing the refinancing obligation. What does it mean for government to borrow 2.42 billion in T-bills? I must admit, when I saw the story, I went straight to my bank trying to find out what exactly is going on. So please help us, those of us who do not understand this, give us an understanding of it.
It does not mean that, government is going to restructure T-bills or they are going to be included in the debt exchange program. They've been very categorical. They say that, T-bills are still exempted from or excluded from the program. But if you see government borrowing so much from the domestic markets, it's because they've lost access to the international markets.
Okay.
And this is the first quarter of the year, so this is what governments they do. You've projected that you're going to get some revenue in the first quarter of the year. They are not in yet. So what you do is that you go back to the market, the domestic market or the foreign market, to borrow. And then you use to service, pay workers and also service your loans and other things. Mind you that this 2 billion that we've borrowed, we are going to use, a lot of the percentage or a bigger chunk to pay old loans.
Okay.
So those who bought T-bills and are expecting 91 days and are expecting their coupons and then their principal, these new ones that government has just bought will be used to pay them. Okay. And then, when government comes to borrow for the second quarter, they will use it to pay those who bought, 91 bills or 180, days bills. So that's what it means. It doesn't mean that government is going to restructure T-bills. It simply means that they are borrowing so that they will be able to pay those who actually bought T-bills, in the last quarter of 2022. And if you look at T-bill, for instance, the rate is lucrative. If you look at it, it's around 32%. What a Bank of Ghana is quoting. So, and if you look at the data, you realize that most of the investors buying these T-bills are banks.
Okay.
So they feel that it is, like a lucrative way of, putting their money somewhere and getting it back, because they still believe in government that if they buy the T-bills, they can still get it back. But government had two options, either the T-bill or the bonds market. But we've seen the bonds market has been collapsed. So government is really going to rely heavily on this T-bill. And one way to attract investors is to raise the interest. That's why we see 32%.
I'm sure you can see the broad smiles on my face at this point. Thank you so much, Kofi J. Minta, for breaking it all down for us. But burden sharing is in order, but there must be exceptions. That's the position of the Pensioner Bondholders Forum, insisting exemption of their bonds is the only alternative for its members. Convener of the group, Dr. Edu Entry, maintains that even though government has announced an extension of the deadline for further consultations, the government is yet to reach out to them for engagement to take off a development which is raising concerns for them. With over 400 members now, the group says their only interest is for government to exempt their funds from the debt restructuring process. He's been speaking on the Pulse with Blessed Soga.
I believe we must all share the pain. But we don't share pains with already vulnerable people. Whatever pains need to be shared, those who are capable to bear must bear. In every society, there are vulnerable groups. And I like it when Russia was calling people to go and fight. Did they call the people who are sick and old and in their house? No, the young ones. The elderly have played their part, their role. It is now left on to the young ones to do that. Just as when we are in the house, something comes, we tell, oh lady, sit down, we shall do it. Basic principle. You can't burden the already impoverished and vulnerable group. So, burden sharing is okay that people share, but people will have to share a burden that they can bear. If an old man, something is happening, and you call an old man to help you push your car, after he just attempt to push, you will fall down and die. You don't call the sick person to come and push your car. You call somebody who has the strength. So all that we are saying that, yes, burden sharing, fine, but look at some group that we think these people cannot bear that cost, and so we would exempt them from the sharing.
So you're willing to make some concessions?
If we see what government is willing to do, and we are not the only group, if government can exempt the vulnerable group and then negotiate with the others, the able-bodied people who can bear the burden, everybody would be happy. At least the elder ones will be encouraging the young ones to come up and help. It is time for you. I've now used that. They say, "Yena assassini." Now, a Drew Mine was so. The me is not the old man. If you say a Drew Mine was he's not referring to the old man who cannot sometimes even come out of the room to see sunlight. What is he going to do? It is me, those who are able-bodied and have strength to continue, the people that the son is referring to, that a Drew Mine was so. The rest are there just to motivate it, give us advice and do that. But if it comes to burden sharing, they are incapable of helping.
Meanwhile, former chairman of Parliament's Finance Committee, Dr. Marcus Ebeyeboah, is predicting that government will not be able to convince key stakeholders to sign on to the debt exchange program by the end of the month. He says that there may be a need for further extension, as he criticizes government for lacking humility in its approach.
In all fairness, they haven't committed any crime. They haven't stolen money. These are hard-earned monies. And then government wakes up one day and says, you can't have access to your funds, not even the principal. And if you have a bond that matures from 2024, what the program is proposing is that your principal will be paid in 12 installments from 2027 to 2028. If you have 1 million cedis, if you look at the future value of 1 million cedis from 2027 up to 2028, that's about 200,000 Ghana cedis. So even at face value, your 1 million cedis, you are losing about 80% of its value without much ado. So they have just cause to oppose it. And these are hard-earned monies. And all of us, following the collapse of the savings and loans and microfinance, we urged people to take their monies to the banking sector, buy bonds. They are risk-free, they are secured, go in there. And mind you, you and I don't follow these things on a daily basis. We have people placed in positions of authority who know the inflows as per revenue receipts, their ability to service these debts. We just hold our arms, and one day we just wake up and say that, oh, we can't pay our debts. And now you are pushing this down the throats of ordinary Ghanaians, retirees, pensioners who have worked hard and saved for their health care or taking care of their families and all that. No, they have every cause to oppose it. So I'm saying that this deadline extensions, negotiations, as I see, is going nowhere.
Risk analyst Dr. Theo Champong is also urging government to rethink some of the targets set under the program to get the buy-in of affected entities. He was on PM Express.
Currently, as we speak, the process, in my view, has been bungled, and partly because of the sort of I know it all attitude of the government, where instead of engaging and consulting widely with the people that are affected, a lot of the things were pretty much thrown at them. And this is people's monies, people's livelihoods that we're talking about here. And so there was always going to be heavy resistance, right, to it. But what people wanted to see was the government to actually engage in an open and frank manner, rather than attempting to, foist the whole thing on them as a take it or leave it option. And that is really where we have a lot of the challenges now. And I very much, again, side with Mark. I don't think that 31st January, extension new date would be met, because there are very entrenched positions here. And fundamentally, what this also means, in my view, is that 55% debt to GDP number it's not going to be, it's not sustainable, even by 2028. So we might have to actually go back and rework those numbers, because you're talking almost having to reduce your debt thresholds by half within the space of about 4 years. And that is going to impose heavy austerity on the people of Ghana. So perhaps it's really a question of us going back to the drawing board and trying to see if we can instead, have a gradual reduction of these debt metrics or indicators over maybe even an 8 to 10 year period, because I don't think that 55% is attainable.
Another edition of PM Express comes up on this channel at 9 p.m. You want to stay for that. Now, the National Concerned Small Scale Miners Association, Ghana, has expressed doubt over whether the ongoing investigation into the Akunta mining Galamsey issue will reach any conclusive determination. The group's concern comes at the back of President Akufo-Addo's response to a question on the involvement of Akunta mining and illegal mining on the Birim River in the eastern region. The president in his response stated that Akunta mining was not engaged in any illegal mining as we speak. But the concerned small-scale miners in the press release have accused government of being compromised in the Galamsey activities. We are joined on Zoom by President of the group, Michael Kwadwo-Prepra, for more on their concerns. Thank you so much for joining us tonight here on Joy News Prime. Well, there have been some clarifications on this matter already, but it seems you are not satisfied. Where is this stemming from?
First of all, let me extend my greetings to your viewers. As a matter of fact, when our president spoke, we were quite shocked because this illegal mining, with regards to people mining in the forest reserve, is something of a worry. And we want the president to help us solve this issue. But unfortunately, when he spoke to defend Akunta mining. And as a matter of fact, he as well spoke on issues with regards to the 294 forest reserves we have. He said that he can speak on authority that no one is mining in these forest reserves we have in the country. And that made us to as well come out with evidence to prove to this country that there are a lot of illegal mining activities going on in the forest reserves we have in the country. And that's how come we've come out with a press statement.
Okay. Well, so from one president to a bigger president, I should say, what exactly are the demands there that you're making from government on the matter?
We have noticed that the 294 forest reserves we have in the country, out of the 294, 210 has been given out to companies to mine in our various forest reserves. Quite recent ago, the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, Abu Jinapor, as well told us that these forest reserves are red zone, and for that matter, no mining activity should go on in the various forest reserves. We can speak on authority that
oh dear, it appears we've just lost the Michael Kwadwo-Prepra there. Unstable connection, but I'm sure that the point has been well made. We're grateful for your time here on Joy News Prime. We're live on the Joy News channel, also on myjoyonline.com and all our social media platforms. Still to come, over 34,000 children in the northeast region of Ghana have no furniture. So that's the four-part series. That's just the first part that we just aired. There'll be more subsequently. But you all recall that the multimedia group launched the Classroom project over a year ago as a solution to 2 of the hundreds of weak school structures dotted across the country. The first project, situated at Breman Jamra in the Sikuma Odobing Brakwa district of the Central Region, is currently at the roofing stage, and that's good news, and it requires more funds for completion. The second project is in Tolong in the Northern Region region, with construction yet to start. Well over 700 school children will benefit from the project when completed. My colleague Richard Kojonyako has visited the Breman Jamra DA Basic School site this morning, and here's his report.
So we are currently at Breman Jamra DA Basic School, and this is where 6 years ago the unfortunate occurrence where 6 kindergarten school pupils were killed. I mean, the building they called classroom collapsed on them and their lives were snuffed out. 6 years on, that building has been completed. But there is another building here that is a death trap. The children have their hearts in their mouth whenever they enter this building. So look at the footings of this building. All of these things are removing gradually. They are being removed and the building shakes visibly. Get here. This place shakes. As soon as you hit it slightly, then it shakes. It threatens to break away from the entire structure. So the case do play. And unfortunately, if any of them should lean on this wall, then the unfortunate thing would happen. Now, when it rains, rain seeps through the roofing heavily, and so classes have to be disrupted. Academic activities have to come to a halt. The school pupils have been telling us that they feel unsafe. They are afraid for their lives whenever it rains, because when it rains, the entire building shakes very well, and they feel threatened, and they have the unfortunate occurrence 6 years ago on the back of their mind that something could happen. So what have you been learning today?
It is dangerous for us to learn in. When the rain enters the classroom will be very dirty here. So we don't want this class again. We want a new one. So we don't want this class, we want the other one there. We please them to help us this new building so that we can live comfortably in that new room.
Because when it is raining, our ceiling will be removing. The water will be coming inside this room, so we don't want this class again. We want a new one. We feel shaking. When the rain is falling, we feel shaking, we fear, so that we fear that the building will break in. So we want the government to build another school for us. We are telling them to come and help us to build a room because we are begging them to come and help us to build the building.
Fortunately, the multimedia group decided to embark on a project and then build a classroom structure that could accommodate the kids. In fact, the kids are crammed in some of the classrooms and it makes academic work very, very difficult. So this is the entire structure that multimedia has been working on, and it has gotten to the roof level.
Well, the numbers are on your screen. You can support a worthy cause. Well, the Executive Director for the Institute of Education Studies and Training, IFES, Dr. Peter Anti, observed that initiatives such as the Multimedia's Classroom Project is the way to go in helping fix the education infrastructure deficit in Ghana. He spoke to my colleague Samuel Kojobris on News Desk.
It's the way to go. We need other people, because sometimes government feels that they are not interested in doing some of these things. We need private individuals to also step in, NGOs, donor organizations and other things, to also step in and help provide the needed infrastructure for our schools. But we need to let government understand that there is a responsibility to provide quality education for our children. And if they're able to make the public school system, the basic public school system very, very good, nobody will be struggling to take their award to the private school system.
it's not too late for you to support as well. Well, we'll stay on education and the high rate of dropout of girls from junior and senior high schools in the Wa West district in the Upper West region is of much concern for stakeholders of education in the district. My colleague, Rafiq Salam, has more.
Wochaubo is an outlandish community located in the eastern corridor of the Wa West district. The scattered built community has a population of almost 2,000. The mainstay of the people is agriculture, particularly the cultivation of cereals, leguminous crops, and rearing of animals. Among the myriad of challenges faced by the people of Wochaubo and its adjoining communities is education. Many children enroll at the basic school, but majority of them drop out of school before they complete the junior high school. The case is even worse for the girl child as they drop out in droves and forced into early marriage. There is, however, a case of one who has defied the odds and bent on changing the status quo.
Most ladies don't continue their education just because they don't have someone to support them. Some get pregnant because no one is providing for them. They have to give themselves for men to support them. But me, I said those things can bother me. Whichever genuine way I'll pass to further my education, I will.
Chanela Louisa Doma was born in the community some 22 years ago and had a basic school education here. She attained aggregate 10 in the basic education certificate examination and was offered admission at St. Louis Senior High School in the Asante region, a school that she admired at the time but has little knowledge about.
Because my aim is I want to explore. I want to go all over the region before I die. So after my BEC, I decided to travel outside the region and also see how life is. Because living in this village, and after that you go to SHS in this village and everything in this village, you won't know what's going on. And life is really different as compared to this place.
Louisa Doma has just got admission at the University of Mines and Technology, UMAT, to pursue environmental safety engineering. She is the torchbearer for female education for now in the community. The first female to go to the university here passed on few years after her completion. The onus now lies on her to succeed.
My parents they are not well to do. They can provide all my needs, but through the help of Honorable, he has been providing some of my needs for me, like my school fees, everything at all I need concerning school, he provides for me.
Wa West Member of Parliament, Superintendent retired Peter Lenchine Tubu, spotted a Wochaubo starlet during her basic school days and is ready to fund her education and some 3 others.
But I want her to be a star. I want her to be a star very particularly to the girl child. Where you were born cannot disadvantage you. Who you are and who you think you can be tomorrow should be an inspiration that will let you stand out in the world.
Her auntie, Abenato Agnes, is excited.
Her seniors couldn't make it, but she has done well. Girls' education is very important, but most girls are unable to climb the educational ladder due to obvious barriers. But Louisa has been exceptional. The MP has done well by contributing to her education. It's our hope that she will be able to complete successfully, so she can assist her siblings in the future.
Growing up in this predominant farming community, Doma Louisa has several of her colleagues who she said were more brilliant than her. She stated that now that she's been able to get herself out of the turbulent waters, she will prove a point to be a shining example for the community.
I will encourage all young girls to hold on to their education, no matter the troubles and what they are going through, either financially or mentally from their parents. They should still keep on trying. Even if they are not academically good, they should try to complete either SHS. From there they can get a petty job to do.
Reporting for Joy News, Rafiq Salam, Wochaubo.
And that's how we wrap up tonight's edition of Joy News Prime. Becky, thank you so much. Always, I always look forward to seeing you. Yes. There's more when you log on to myjoyonline.com. Beverly Broom is up next with Joy Prime Business. Have a good evening.